impressive. I did lots of stuff through Birdy VR, Metaverse platforms, etc. And the thing for which I had the most success is a cube. So that's very ironic. It's been very funny, doing this thing.
So let's talk about extended reality, VR, AR, and all of this stuff. Where are we now? How is it going to be, in our opinion? And what's the future of all of this? Together with me are very special guests, veterans of the, let's say, enthusiasm of this industry. And for me personally, the most favorite persons to talk about this topic. So without further ado, I present you Anthony Vitillo, right? I spelled it correctly. Scared Ghost, the top virtual reality voice and the author of the Ghost Holes blog and newsletter.
And consultant, VR consultant, right?
Yes. I took this top virtual reality voice from your LinkedIn profile, so I found it very nice. So
you cannot say you're not
introduction. And also, like always, a pleasure to have you here, Łukasz Drozd, known to the world as Simplex, Spiritus Movens of M Quadrat podcast, and the person who got me into virtual reality. Hello, guys. It's I am pleased to have you here, and it's a great honor.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I'm very happy that thanks to Mateusz, I was able for the first time to talk to Antony, or like not in person, but at least see his voice, see his face, see his voice. So, Antony, how should we refer to you? Like it's Tony, Antonio? What's the?
Everyone calls me Tony. Tony is good.
Tony is fine. Okay, Tony.
Tony, so let's start about you. First question I wanted to ask you is on origins of your nickname. Why Scared Ghost? What's the story behind it?
All right, first of all, everyone, or dzień dobry to be a bit Polish today also myself. So I started working in XR 10 years ago. So now I have my anniversary this year. And the funny thing is that I have this nickname that I chose for myself, which is the Scared Ghost, which is still a secret why I chose that name. But I can tell you why I have a nickname. So that's also a funny story, because at that time I was collaborating with a previous classmate of mine at the university, after a few years after we ended the university actually. And we had this idea of making like indie games. So not even VR, just PC, mobile, whatever. And so I started informing myself about how do you do an indie game studio, this kind of stuff. And for some reason, the main tutorial I found were from people that had like a nickname, like a battle name, like people in Top Gun. There is Maverick, there is Iceman, and everyone had a fancy nickname. So I thought that all indie game developers have a nickname, like Top Gun fighters for real. So I really spent a few time to think what could be my name. And I imagine that Scared Ghost one, for reasons one day I will explain, and that's why I have a nickname. And the funny thing is that it's not true that having the developer as a nickname. It was just me finding by chance only people having them. And so when then I started with VR, the name was restored when I opened my Twitter account. So I don't know if I have 1 minute to tell also the story. Basically, when after a while we dropped this idea of making indie game development, so I had this Twitter account of Scared Ghost that I used for, I don't know, a few weeks, and then I stopped and it was closed by Twitter for inactivity. And we started with the same guy doing some AR, VR stuff, and we created the first startup that was emotional. The funny thing is that he said, you should do, he was sharing some links, some stuff about what we were doing on Twitter, and I had no Twitter account anymore. He told me, Tony, you should help the company in making communication. And I said, no, I'm too lazy. I don't want to communicate anything. And he was like, no, please use Twitter. I said, I have no Twitter account. They said, you can restore the previous one. I said, what? The Scarred Ghost one? Why should I do that? Then after a while, I was convinced by him to do that. And actually, it was a good decision. So I have this name that comes even before the VR stuff. And by chance, it survived a lot of times. It's a kind of fun story to tell.
Okay.
I just realized I wasn't following you on Twitter for some reason, so I just fixed that. Sorry about that.
No, the last one.
Scarred Ghost, not the last one. You have like 30,000, over 30,000 followers, so congratulations. You're an
Thank you.
influencer. We have 800, so our podcast. So yeah,
But you can go a lot. I love you guys, so you will do.
yeah.
Okay, Tonis, but I haven't heard the why Scarred Ghost.
But he said it's a secret.
It's a secret.
You want?
One day I will tell it, but
Okay,
I still haven't revealed it.
Okay.
And, I'm curious, since you say it's your 10th anniversary. So what was the VR like in 2014? There was a DK2, right? What were you doing? Kinect?
So basically, I started with DK2, which I still remember the first time I put a headset on and I saw the Tuscany demo. So people that are in VR since a long time remember that. And, by today's standard, it was terrible. But at that time, it was magic. Oh my God, I'm in a different world. So
Did you even walk up the stairs? Do I remember correctly? You could walk up the stairs somewhere in that house, or maybe I misremember.
Yeah. There was some times there was a sea outside. And I remember that the moment I fell in love with VR, and then we were like, what we can do with this? And then at that time, you moved in the virtual world using mouse and keyboard because it was only PC VR headset. There was no VR controllers. There was basically no home scale, no amateering. There was no everything. Even Unity developers, when I started, there was only VR was possible with Unity Pro, a bit like now with Vision Pro. And so the landscape was totally different. And that's why we started the startup about the full body VR with Kinect, because we were like, Kinect gives the full body, VR needs a full body, and we wanted to mix the two things. But, a lot of time has passed by, actually, if you think about the difficulties that there was in 2014.
Yeah, so the full body prediction didn't sort of come to pass because it turned out that you can have just 2 motion controllers, and that's enough for most people, right?
Yeah, that was one. There was this thing I remember when the Vive came out. That was one of the main things that started destroying our startup, because before the Vive, everyone was like, wow. And then people started asking, why I need the feet? Why I need your system? I already have the hands with the Vive. And I remember one potential investor, whatever, that said, I have the Vive. I said, yeah, but with our system, you can use the feet. And he answered, we said, you can use the feet, you can play football. And he said, I don't like football. Like, he went away. He's leaving us totally depressed for not having funding. So
I think I actually found, I don't remember exactly how I found your blog, but I think I found it through your article of how the startup failed, actually, right? I think that was how I learned about you.
Yeah, that was a nice adventure. At that time, by the way, I had very long hair and there was super wizard. There was a wizard like Harry. It's rare, and that's a good adventure.
You look like,
And, it's we all nerds need to have our wizard face. So that was mine.
Okay. So what?
You touched the topic about what do you do in the industry. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, when I'm not making memes to have fun with friends, what I do is mostly 2 things. People mostly know me for the blog. So I have this blog called, the Ghost Owls, because I'm the Scarred Ghost. where I talk about what I learned in VR, or interview some people, give my opinion about stuff, even if people didn't ask for it. And so it's a way to connect with the community, maybe to teach people what I learned. So try to really be helpful for the other people. But actually my main job is being basically a developer or a tech leader or whatever. So for instance, I'm mostly a Unity guy. And currently I'm a freelance consultant. Until a few months ago, I was in a startup that was doing VR concerts, which is pretty cool stuff. And I was the CTO there. So my job is being the tech guy, mostly about tech stuff. Sometimes also about computer vision that I also like, but VR is my love. So this is.
You are the author of the Unity Cube.
I'm the author of the Unity Cube. So
did you remove it eventually, or like what happened to it?
Oh, it's still there. It's still there. Cool. It still has reviews at 4+ stars. Mm-hmm. It's available on App Lab, so soon will be in early access on the New Horizons store. And it's an app with a cube. And there is a trailer when I say it's a cube. It's a cube. There are screenshots of a cube. And got I think I cannot say the numbers, but it's more than 10K downloads.
You have 163 ratings, you know.
It's impressive, you know. I did lots of stuff through the VR, metaverse platforms, etc. And the team for which I had the most success is a cube. So that's very ironic. It's been very funny, you know, doing this thing.
It's really nice that Meta never deleted it, you know. That's like good from them. Like they could have done it, right?
There is no requirement that Toy is serving cubes, so
yeah.
Let's see now that they open the store, because the interesting thing is that now they're going to all the apps that were hidden behind App Lab will become visible. So I don't know if there are 10,000 hidden cubes on App Lab. I think there may be a problem, but hopefully if there are not too many, Meta is not going to add new requirements about the app. So that app passes all the requirements. It's a good frame rate because it's only a cube. It doesn't have any harmful content. It respects your privacy. So it's perfect. So why should I remove it?
You're right. It was like a proof of concept, right? That you can get onto the store. Like, what's the minimum thing you have to do to get on the App Lab, right? Like,
it was more like it was a bit depth and a bit of a challenge in a way. So I was doing the tutorial on how to make apps for the Quest, you know. And while I finished the tutorial, to make a tutorial, I made an app with a cube. You know, that was the minimum requirement to do an app that can be published on App Lab. And at the end of the tutorial, I showed the submission process, and I arrived at the moment where I should press the submit button. So probably a normal person should have just said, okay, now is the moment where I press the button, but don't do it because that's just a fucking cube app. And instead, I was like, let's do it, and let's see what happens. Actually, the cube was published, and then was featured on Road to VR, on Upload, on Forbes. I found it in a few places, in a Japanese blog. It was really everywhere. And
you should have a 5th anniversary, like next year, 29th of March, 2025. Oh, it'll be 4th anniversary, sorry, I can't count. But basically, you should do like a, anniversary.
That's a good idea. We could make a cube party. Everyone dressed like cubes.
And your app doesn't require internet connection, so that's great.
It's perfect. So it's a perfect app. So everyone should download the Unity Cube and give it 5 stars. And let's make it become the most downloaded app after Gorilla Tag, probably.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, gents, so let's go to the boring stuff. So at first I would like to talk about VR. So Tony, question first to you. Are we still in the autumn of VR, like you said, like you wrote last year? But if so, is it more like warm end of September or rainy November, or are we close to the winter right now?
Oh, that's a good question. So, in my opinion, we are probably, well, not in November anymore. Let's say it's an autumn that should go in reverse. So, from winterish to summerish in a way. We found ourselves in the autumn because, the COVID ended and people started being less interested in Excel. But then there was the hype of the metaverse. So we had a spike of interest. Everyone was calling me about, I want a metaverse. And I said, what do you mean? I don't know, metaverse. And that was the dialogues I was having in that period. But then when people understood, they had no idea what they were talking about. We had we went to the tour of disillusionment, as Gartner calls that phase. So actually everyone got interested in AI and they didn't care about metaverse or Excel anymore. And there was a period that was really, really bad. But then I will say a few things contributed to make the situation better. So the Quest 3 came out. Meta showed that while now it's talking more about AI because this is what investors want, but Zuckerberg was clear the metaverse is a goal. So because if Meta would have said, okay, I don't care about metaverse anymore, I think another of us would have lost the job probably. But Meta proved to be committed. Apple launched the Vision Pro and said to be committed to it. It means that also Google and Samsung announced their headset. And so and this is creating, the birds started rolling again, and we have some effects. For instance, now Meta is accelerating to take care about what Apple is doing. We have Pico that has came back after disappeared for some months, talking about it. I was there at an event made by Pico for Business a few weeks ago. So there are lots of things that are changing, and one thing that I like to mention a lot, who reads my blog, has read about this a few times. But Andreessen Horowitz, probably one of the biggest tech funds in the US, said, now it's the moment to invest in a VR company. We are bullish about the VR and we want to invest in these technologies. And since investors like to follow the trends, many other investors started to be interested again in Excel because of this. Some people tell me that some other investors have these, are like, okay, oh wow, so Excel is back on the menu. So situation is still not great because as a developer, I can feel what's happening, how much money is on the plate, etc. And still companies are struggling today, but the situation is better than 1 year ago. So there are more things moving. There is a bit more optimism on investors. There is a bit more interested people that are talking about Apple and Google. There are some more projects that are coming here and there. So I think we are probably now in September, so it's still not bright, but we are getting towards it slowly. So I don't expect this to happen next week. Maybe end of the year, beginning of next year, Polish situation will be a bit more positive, and it's a slowly positive going trend. So in my opinion, we are still not warm, but we are not freezing anymore.
Okay. Łukasz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree. I mean, the Quest, we just learned that that Meta is working on 2 new Quest 4 models and the Quest Pro 2. Apple is working on a cheaper Vision Pro and on like a successor of Vision Pro. So in 2027, we may have a very, I know it's in 3 years' time, but, it's still, there is some hope, there is some outlook on the future. It's not like there were moments when there were like almost no new headsets on the market, nothing was happening, and now we have lots of them, and there are new ones coming. Even Pico is supposed to release something for some reason. Pimax is preparing new models. There are rumors of the Google and Samsung cooperation, and And, so I think we are in a good place now. Although PC VR is still, because I look from the perspective of gaming, because I'm a gamer mostly. This is my main usage. So maybe that's not so great, but still there are all the time new games coming out. And we'll have an Alien game, we'll have Batman game, we'll have Metro game. So it looks quite good. Maybe we'll finally get, a few weeks back, even Facebook. I think they said that San Andreas VR is still being developed, and then I think they removed this comment. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? They removed it then, right? It was like that. First there were news that they said it, then they removed it, and so now we still don't know nothing. But they never officially canceled it. So until it's not canceled, it's still there's still hope.
And what about this light version of Quest 3? Do you think it will make any noise?
Yeah, I'm curious, Antony, what do you think about that? Because we basically know everything about it, right? Except the price.
Well, the rumors are the price maybe $200, euros, whatever, plus VAT. I mean, which will be an amazing price because that's the magical number to have more mainstream adoption. I don't know what to think in the sense that I think it will move the needle, especially because, as Lucas said, there will going to be a lot of cool games coming, and these games are going to attract people. Now we have also Roblox on Quest, by the way, so more kids on the Quest. And companies have understood also the kids are available for them, they're a new market, etc. So this holiday season with the Quest 3S, the new games, blah, 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 I guess the Quest 3S is going to sell well. In my opinion, it will move the needle, it will increase the adoption. I don't think it will be the device to make XR to explode, honestly. So I don't imagine 1 billion Quest 3S sold. But maybe some dozens, millions across its lifetime, it may happen. A bit like the Quest 2, it had very good sales and made VR make a step forward for mainstream adoption. I think this can be another step, but not 5 steps. I mean, I don't know if you two agree on what I'm saying.
I mean, I agree, but I'm not sure about the price. I mean, I would love it to be for $200, but I think it will be too hard to believe that it will be so cheap. I mean, just it will be really hard. For Meta would have to somehow subsidize it, I guess, because I don't believe that the tech is in the place that would allow such a price without adding, subsidizing it. But I think between $250 and $350 is I think that's the range that it will land. That's my opinion. Also, of course I would love it to be the cheapest possible, but we'll see.
Let's say Mark has a lot of money, so let's see if you want.
Yes, but he's using, but those VR divisions are burning billions of dollars, right? And investors are not happy. But did you hear about this lowered price of PlayStation VR 2?
I heard about it. I mean, there is it's a limited time discount. Maybe they are trying, to fire the last shots and see if lowering the price is going to increase a lot the adoption.
Looks like it's working because it's actually supposedly there's a huge spike in sales and on Amazon it's sold out totally.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge success. Some guy even claimed on a blog on Substack that some retailer told him, listen to this, that they sold more PS VR 2s in this one day during the sale than for the whole time since the beginning of the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But, maybe they sold 100, for the whole year, and then they sold 101 in this one day. That's possible too, right? We never know because they never give numbers. They only give percentage. Supposedly it sells 2,300% better, right? But it means nothing. Because if you sold 1 and then you sold 11, then it's a 1,000% more, right? So we don't know. But from what the news are telling, because the news on PSVR 2 are usually very pessimistic, Sony doesn't care, Sony halted production, it missed some kind of estimates, doesn't sell, no one likes it. But these news are very optimistic, so maybe it will be some kind of message to Sony, because I mean, I think Sony must have approved this sale, right? Because how else would it happen? I don't know how it works.
Yeah,
Well,
I wish we could have such prices. here.
Exactly, because Mateusz made a very good point. Because from what I learned, this sale is only in two countries, United States and United Kingdom. So that's not good.
well,
Yeah, that's just those two places.
wow.
Yeah. So it's $350 in the USA and £330 in UK, and that's a really good price, I think. That's how it should cost from the beginning, you know.
Yeah, but maybe if they see if there's such a big success, maybe they can really change all the strategy. It depends on how much Sony Interactive Entertainment is interested, because you know that Sony and SIE are actually different. Basically, one is part of the other. The big Sony group is Japanese. The PlayStation One is American, basically. And if they made this just to empty the warehouses, it's a thing. If they did a test and it succeeded, maybe they can change the price worldwide. If you remember, the Rift in the beginning, the Oculus Rift was selling much worse than the Vive. Then on Facebook, Oculus at that time slashed the price with the summer of Rift of a lot of money.
I got it then, actually.
And everyone bought a Rift at that point. And then Facebook understood, okay, that's how we can beat the competitors. And they kept the slashed price permanently. So maybe if the idea is if this was a test, maybe it can become the price worldwide forever. I hope so. I mean, I would love to have a strong PSVR 2 on the market.
Me too. I actually managed to convince one of my friends who lives in the UK to buy it. And so far, he is very happy.
Lucky guy.
Exactly, yeah. He's actually Polish, but he left Poland to live in UK. So, yeah.
You sound very optimistic, guys. I would not be that optimistic.
So tell
to
us
talk
why.
about
What
Sony. Maybe they are just, as you, Tony, also mentioned, that maybe they are just cleaning the stores, the storages to make place for other stuff and get rid of this annoying piece of hardware they developed and forgot about later on.
This is possible, but maybe they want to start because there are rumors that they stopped production, right? And they would not resume production until they sold out. So maybe they want to resume production, but first they need to get rid of all the old stock. And who knows? Maybe this will mean that they will start manufacturing PSVR 2 again, if they even ever stopped, because that rumor that they stopped was never confirmed officially. So it's all rumors, actually.
Time will tell. So going back to VR in general, in one of the recent posts on your blog, Tony, I read that Meta invests money in startups that are developing applications not related to gaming. And I have a general question to that. Do you believe that VR can go at any point outside gaming?
Well, that's a good question. I think that for the strict VR, there are other use cases, but gaming is one of the biggest ones, at least on the consumer side. On the business side, there is training, etc. But if you consider XR in general, so not only VR, but also MR, AR, I think gaming is not the main use case, because it's like the smartphone. I mean, many people play on the smartphone, but you take it to message with people mostly, to use social media, and sometimes also to make calls. But I think that it's the same with XR. So the strict VR is probably mostly gaming or meeting people, or maybe have some experiences that are entertainment but not gaming. I mean, as I said, there is in a company making VR concerts, so it can be events where you meet with people. You can have travels, you can have this kind of stuff, but or working together. So you could see that you are in the office, even if you work remotely, and with the other people in the same virtual place. So I see some applications, and gaming is a very strong one. But as I repeat, for me, XR in general, and it's a mixed reality now that the headsets are hybrid, gaming is not the main goal anymore. And personally, I appreciate in a way Apple trying to give a vision more of a general computer to MR headsets, because gaming is still a niche we really love, but still not something for which my mother will ever wear an XR headset. She doesn't care about gaming, but maybe if the XR headset is a way to connect with some friends or parents or relatives or whatever, that becomes useful. So I think that that's how I see things. And I think that's also why Meta now has this accelerator for lifestyle experiences, because probably wants to start experimenting also outside the pure gaming, because otherwise the Quest becomes a console. But the mission of Zuckerberg is sell 1 billion headset. I mean, that is his goal. He said a few years ago, and you don't sell 1 billion consoles. So that's my opinion.
Okay, but going back to games, do you think that we'll ever see a game that would, be a system seller, like, or even I don't know how to say the
Mario,
the niche seller, the console seller, like Beat Saber? So if you talk with any person about VR, you have a lot of high chance to hear that he played or she played Beat Saber. Do you think that we'll ever see a game like that would, sell not only the headset itself, but rise the popularity of VR at all?
Well, I think I've never been a big believer of the killer app, because there was this, I remember in like 2017, like, this ecosystem is not working, but the killer app will arrive and make headsets mainstream, and everyone was waiting this killer app, like, a god coming to Earth or something like that. I think it's more... there are a few things that help you move in the needle, and then there is like a killer ecosystem of apps that are good for everyone. Because Beat Saber is great, everyone loved it. But for instance, Beat Saber is a system seller the moment you make people try it. Because otherwise, Beat Saber is not an IP or whatever, and it's also a single player game. So, I mean, now there is some multiplayer, but still mainly single player. So it's not something that you say to your friends, I'm on Beat Saber, buy it, so we play together. I mean, it's not that frequent. But it helped. But now we have things, as I said, Roblox. Roblox has like 40 million daily users or something like that in general. That is a thing that a kid may want to enter VR to see the creation of Roblox from inside, and so helps in selling. These new games coming. I mean, Batman, everyone loves Batman. If there is GTA, I mean, for us millennials, is like a fantastic game, and many people want to have it. Half-Life Alyx contributed because it's a legendary game as well. So there are a few things that are contributing. I would say now, I mean, Gorilla Tag is even more popular than Beat Saber, probably, especially among kids. It's like 20% of Quest users are monthly are like the Gorilla Tag users. So that's crazy. It's an impressive percentage. So
Gorilla Tag, right?
Yes.
It's like I read about it recently. It's like 1 million daily users, 3 million monthly users. It's crazy. So I never even played it, actually, I must admit.
But you know that well what it is, and maybe if some friends of yours are playing Gorilla Tag, maybe you buy the headset as well to play with them. So that's what I'm saying. I think there are many system sellers. There is not a thing like Mario, I guess, that arrives on VR and everyone rushes to buy a headset. But many little Marios are already there, and there will be more, because no one was expecting Gorilla Tag. I mean,
true.
it's a surprise in a way. It came from nothing. Even the creator was not expecting such a success. He had to rush to introduce monetization, or he was going to get broke for all the server costs. So it's a crazy story. And like Beat Saber came from nothing, Gorilla Tag came from nothing. Maybe in 2 years there will be another super hit game that a random guy decides to create and sells apps and selling a headset. And in parallel, there are the IPs, Metro, Batman, Roblox. I mean, there's Busters. I mean, there are now lots of IP that have something on the Quest and which are all helping a lot.
Okay. I feel convinced.
Let's
talk a bit about the hardware. So, question to both of you. What would be, let's say, the next milestone, the next, the next, not step, maybe the elevator of the hardware? What should happen to the hardware? What should appear in order to make VR or XR in general, let's say, more popular to flourish? What do you think, guys?
Please, Lucas.
Hard question. Let me think about that a bit. Maybe, Tony, you can say something smart, because I'm currently not able to say anything smart.
Cannot say something smart, but I will say something anyway to feel the right. So, I think there is one main point. I would say a couple of things. The first is that I noticed the headset are evolving much lower in a way, especially on some characteristics that people want. If you think about the field of view, coming to the Quest 3 is still not huge. Even if we have some PCVR headset with big field of view, we can imagine the reason, the computational power, the cost of the panels to have that field of view, even the motion sickness, because the larger field of view means more motion sickness. That's what papers said. So I don't imagine, and even when you hear, Andrew Boswell speaking out when Matthew Ball asked, how do you imagine headset in 7 years? And if you read the specifications, they are not like, 200 degrees field of view, vertical, horizontal. It's more like an incremental evolution. When I was reading the specification, I was like, only that, So I think that we are not going to probably have amazing things coming that on the expected. I expect something better, a bit here and a bit there. But one of the main points that for me is a bit crucial is how much mixed reality will actually be a success. Because now we are in this beginning of the mixed reality cycle. And honestly speaking, most of the applications that are there are terrible. They're not really mixed reality or VR game with a past or whatever. But that is a thing that can improve a lot on the hardware side and also on the runtime side. So what we want as developers is camera access. We want to have detection of the mesh of the room. We want to have a lot of stuff. But this becomes useful only if mixed reality proves to be valuable for users. So now we are still in a bit of unknown moment because there is no killer app of MR, not even one. So the question, if that proves to be valuable, I would say what I would like to see next generation is really much better mixed reality. So more processing power to analyze it, to have high quality pass-through and
right?
Yeah, no distortions.
I think VR already achieved that, right?
Yeah, but the motion blur is terrible. You move your head and it starts becoming like if you feel drunk. Everything is super busy. But, if you mix a few headsets that are on the market, like the Quest 3 and the Vision Pro, I would say so the Somnium have a pretty good pass-through, even if they're talking about PCVR headset. But I think that if we add a lot of things, we can have a really true mixed reality. Now it's really prototypical, and that will be a great step forward. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't imagine... I can't imagine really like something mind-blowing on the VR side. It's more like incremental, more free, more computational power, maybe eye tracking. Oh.
Yeah, it would be nice if eye tracking became a standard. But I would love VR to become smaller, like a big screen beyond, for example. This was a surprise. How did they manage to do this? The company that never like had any experience in hardware, right? They just made this hardware. It's so light, it's so small. That's really incredible. You know, micro OLEDs. The only like I would have bought it already if not for the price difference, because it costs $999 in US, right? $1,000, but it's not €1,000 in Europe. Not even 1,100. Not even 1,200. It's actually 1,360 euros. It costs in Europe. That's a huge difference. That's almost 50% more expensive. You know. So like for the price of 3 in the States, you can buy 2 in Europe, and I think it's really unfair. I mean, I guess they have their reasons, but I'm not going to buy it in Europe knowing it's so much cheaper in US. But I think it's a really great, interesting hardware, big screen beyond. I'd love to like test it, you know.
I agree. I mean, in the end, as you said, you had the time to think. You said something amazing. That's so true, because whenever now, I remember when I tried the Somnium headset. I was in Prague, the Somnium Connect. I mean, that's a PCVR headset for enthusiasts. It delivers quite well about its purposes, but still, it was for me like returning to the shoebox and the face design, which we left in VR a few years ago, a couple years ago, I will say. And you realize how it is important to have a small headset, because people want to look like humans and don't want to look like weird guys with a white or black box on the face. So I totally agree. Having something like the big screen beyond, but standalone, you know, maybe a bit big, slightly bigger, but like that, I will do it.
Have like Apple proved that you can have an external device like on a cable, right? They have the battery, right? But you could have just processing power there, right? And the battery. So just keep your goggles, like keep the headset without any, just have the optics, right? And then have a cable. And then it could be really, 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 really light, like Big Screen Beyond. So I think if we wanted to make Big Screen Beyond portable, just create a small pack, you know, right? Like it was, what was this MR Magic Leap, right?
Yeah.
I think they had this pack, right?
Yeah.
So go this route, because people won't laugh at you because Apple did it already. And then Apple does something even if it's stupid, people love it in like the notch, right? So, you know, Apple proved that you can have a pack, external device to your VR goggles. So I think people should go that route. I hope they do.
Cool.
Yeah. So did you see distortions in Somnium? Because I read some reviews, and I think on Upload VR or somewhere, and I think that they were complaining about some kind of distortion in the optics.
So it's a bit weird in the sense that big distortions mostly only on the periphery of the vision. But that's common to many high FOV headsets.
Yeah.
So it's not something that in a way surprised me also, because it was really very, very on the periphery and not occupying a lot of the field of view. But there was a thing that disturbed me. I mean, two things. One, I had a strange light sensation of distortion everywhere when I was moving my eyes and my head. So very slight, previously. And also sometimes I had the impression that some objects appeared as blurred. So in the beginning, I thought I was crazy myself. But then I spoke with other people, and some other people reported seeing it, others no. So one of the things that after the CEO of Somnium said that maybe the reason is these aspherical lenses that the Somnium is using, which are a bit peculiar in the sense that they are very sensitive on the eye position, and they may create some slight distortion. Some people claim you have to get used to them by using these lenses for a couple of days because the brain gets used to it. So let's say I'm not used to them, so I cannot express an opinion. I can say that if you are not used to it and you like me at the Quest my headset, you may feel some sensation of slight distortions while you use the headset.
I think maybe going to the wide field of view is a mistake because I still have my Valve Index, and I think the FOV there is like good enough. Like, it's not distortion. It's not as narrow as Quest or PSVR or something, and it's like I would like this. This was enough. Like, get me another headset with this field of view, and I'll be happy, totally happy. It has even very good vertical field of view, right? Not only horizontal but also vertical. So, like, I don't know how they achieved it. This headset is 5 years old, and I put it on, and it's still great. That's a bit sad. Where is Descartes, right? Right? Where is Valve Descartes? Yeah.
Ask Bradley,
Yeah, he actually I listened today to Bradley. He was asked exactly the same question today, because there's this podcast, Virtual Strangers. Maybe you've heard of it. And they also often invite Brad as a guest to talk about hardware. And they asked him about Descartes, and he said that he's not comfortable in revealing the latest things he learned about Descartes. I don't know why. Maybe he wants to make his own video about it or something. But he said, from what I understood, what he said, that he has some new, really recent insider info about Descartes, but he's not ready yet to share it. So maybe he said that Valve is still working on it, and they are wanting to have a late mover advantage. It's like an opposite to an first mover advantage, right? You can either be the first and how was the word? Like you have the trends.
The market, yeah.
You are telling the trends what will be. You are telling how to look, or you can be a late mover, like Apple did, for example, right? They waited so many years.
Yeah.
So he said that he thinks that Valve is just waiting to be the late mover to see how the market develops, and then they will react to it or something like that. So I'm also waiting for Descartes a lot. Like, I'd love for it to appear, and I still have hope that maybe next year something will happen, because it will be 6 years from Valve Index. That's a lot. And
fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Steam Deck. I love it. I have it. It's a great device. Mateusz, you also have a Steam Deck,
yes.
Right? So if you want to play, your PC games on the go, Steam Deck is a great device. So I can recommend. And yeah, and they even they made this whole new VR interface, VR UI in Steam. This is 100% from the UI of Steam Deck. They just used it. So we'll see how it will be, because if they could make a more powerful Steam Deck that could be VR compatible, and you could connect wirelessly probably some goggles to it and use it as a VR machine. And I think they are working on that.
Yeah. Speaking about upcoming projects, what do you think about this headset from Google and Samsung? When will it appear? When we'll know something more? Or maybe you know already and can share with us?
Well, I don't have the headset. That's the first bad news. But the latest rumors are it will be announced in October and released in March. That was the latest rumors, but we had lots of rumors. It's like Apple, every time someone says different dates, and sooner or later someone is right. But let's say we don't know, but it seems reasonable, because they need to announce something before the end of the year, and they claimed it themselves a few times, so I guess it's going to happen. Usually October is a good moment. So probably that's the time.
These goggles will be more like XR, right? They won't be focused. They will be more for work. What do you think? Wearable, it will be to work, to wear, to watch media. What do you think? Not games, I guess.
I mean, the winner prize is 2K. I don't think it will be for playing Gorilla Tag, It's
great prize. Thank you. Now I'm not interested.
In Europe will be 2,600 whatever, because of the VAT, whatever other stuff. So I think that will be a clone of Android, clone of the Vision Pro, basically slightly cheaper, maybe without the eyesight display, this kind of stuff. But I imagine to be basically the same thing, but with Android Touch. I don't know if you have a different opinion.
I think this is Samsung because Samsung like competes with Apple a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is their reply. This is their like response to Vision Pro.
So let's say it's a good thing anyway that Google and Samsung are entering the field. It's a new endorsement for XR. Google is coming back, and let's hope it doesn't kill the project after a few months again, because Google has this tradition of killing all the good innovative projects. So
The Stadia, remember,
yeah.
what's the name? This VR thing, Daydream, right?
Oh wow, Daydream. How many memories?
I've never had it in my hands. But I'm not happy is that Google and Facebook is like Meta. I'm very sad they didn't come to like an agreement, because the Meta Horizon OS is Android, right?
Yeah.
And there was a chance to have like a same ecosystem, but Google told Meta from rumors that, okay, you want to have the same ecosystem, please use our Android XR now, right? I mean, and Meta says, are you kidding? We spent years developing you did nothing then, you just forgot about VR, and now you come and tell us, just drop it, use ours. No way. And Google said, okay, then we won't use yours, and that's it. I think it was a good moment that could unify VR, and now we are getting more, segmentation and fragmentation. That's not good.
Yeah, but who, how it works. So who controls the platform, gets the money and everything. You saw that even no, please.
Small, if they could have controlled the platform together, right? They could create a joint platform, and now they'll be just competing with each other, and one platform may lose. Right?
Yeah, but these companies don't want to be friends. They just want the full cake. We saw something, I mean, just a taste of it at the time of Steam VR, HTC and Valve. At a certain point, I guess, HTC managers realized they were just making hardware and were getting no money either from the hardware on a niche market, and so they created Viveport and basically killed their big partnership with Valve, because they wanted more money. They want more of that cake, and it's the same with the Meta and Google. They wanted the full domination. They want to control the market. They don't just.
It was the same actually with Oculus after Facebook bought them, right? Remember, Abrash left Valve. It was like he was like a traitor.
Yeah.
Previously, Valve, like Gaben, he invited Palmer Luckey and I think even Mark Zuckerberg to their office, showed them how they work, how Vive works, and then they created their own store. And first, they even blocked. I remember that there was this funny situation because they were blocking people on different headsets from using the store, and it was like there was this Revive, right? This software.
Yeah.
And at first, it worked. Then Facebook started blocking it, and this guy who was working on it, he said that he can remove this block, but this will also remove anti-piracy, like anti-piracy measures. So what do you want me to do? And Facebook basically, they got scared that their games would be pirated easily, and they allowed unofficially, like they never officially said it, but they actually allowed this. They removed that block that they had, and it's still possible to play those games. I mean, this software is haven't been in development for like 2 or 3 years, because sadly this guy who was working on it, he was, I think, employed by Epic Games. But yeah, he did it, and it was a good. I remember those times when you couldn't play those games at all. When you had like Vive or Index, you have to really emulate. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's go to the AR. Augmented reality segment. For the beginning, the big question: Do you think that the time of AR and also mixed reality is coming? Because I have an impression that all major players are talking only about that. And the following question is that, are we ready for, domination of those two parts of extended reality?
I don't think so, because I think the first goggles with any possible mixed reality were Quest 3, and they haven't been even more than a year on the market. Apple Vision Pro showed there are still issues with it, like blur, like Antony said. There's blur, there's grainy. It's grainy when there's no low light, so it still doesn't work. If even a headset for $3,500 from Apple has problems with it, then like, what are we doing, right? I think it's years, like 5 years from now, maybe it will be more usable.
Well, talking instead about, and now I think Lucas made a good picture. Talking about AR, I think we are still very early, and in fact, this year Meta should show at MetaConnect a cool prototype. They call it the best thing that humanity has ever did in technology. I mean, it's really like crazy claims. And this thing that is the best thing that humanity ever did is like, according to almost 70 degrees of field of view, So it's ridiculous. And in fact, they say the first commercial AR headsets maybe are coming in 2027. Talking about the first, so maybe the popular mainstream one will be, 15 years from now or things like that. So we're really talking about very long timelines. I think that for AR, we are at the beginning, in a way, of the journey, which is still good. But it means there's still a lot. Mixed reality, as Lucas said, it's closer. We can already use it. It's not perfect, but it's a bit like being the carry era of VR when you, started that with the CV1, and then when the Quest came out, you had the expertise, you had the application to make it a bit more mainstream. So I think we are in that situation.
And I think for AR, it's like laws of physics, right? We still to create some kind of really like an incredible discovery. There's this Karl Gutak, you probably know this guy, right?
That genius, yeah.
Yeah, and he's very skeptical. Like he sees those goggles and he destroys them. He says this cannot work. Like this is old idea. It never worked. Like he's just ruthless. He criticized Apple Vision Pro a lot for some things, and he was right. So yeah, I listen to that guy. If this guy says that it's not happening anytime soon, I believe him, because he was very. I remember that he was very, very pessimistic about. Oh my god, I forgot the name. Magic Leap, right? He said it's scam, yeah. And he was right. Basically, it was a scam. So yeah, he was right all those years ago. So yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, and what if I can add one last bit to what you said? It's not purely AI, so don't kill me for that. But I think times may be more right for smart glasses, because Ray-Ban Meta,
they're great.
For those taking the good product that is good looking, has some smart features, and people may love it because of the design is cool.
My wife is very skeptical of anything like VR, AR, etc. She hates wearing goggles. And I bought for myself Ray-Bans. You cannot buy them in Poland, You cannot buy Ray-Ban Meta in Poland. Really, wow. You cannot buy them in Poland. That's horrible. And actually, my friend was in the States and he bought me them. But it turns out that when you buy them through the Ray-Ban store, there's only one size. You cannot choose your size. And the size is very small. And for my big fat head, like they are like too, they were too small. And like I looked stupid because, the
frames
were like, they were like this, No. And they were perfect for my wife's head. And she used them and I showed her the smart features and she loved them because like she can play music, she can talk on the phone, and she can make photos. It's like something you understand. It's like almost like a smartphone. And like it's a good test because my wife, like she doesn't, like I said, she doesn't like VR and AR and everything like that. But she liked Ray-Ban Meta and they look good. They're fashionable. That's important. And I think I have a strong suspicion that Mark is actually paying money to Ray-Ban because these, they cost $300, right? Like there are glasses without any smart features that are more expensive, right? Because, and so how are they so cheap? Like it's almost crazy. And if I ever get a chance to buy them again, I would choose the other because it turns out, you know what's funny? That when you order them on Ray-Ban in America, you can only choose one size. But if you order them from Meta Store, you have two sizes. And I learned that after my friend came back from the States, you know? Like I thought if I order from Ray-Ban, that's the most like logical thing to do because they are Ray-Ban glasses. But no, because it turns out if you order them from Meta, because on Meta you have two sizes, like small and big. And I should have taken the big one, and Ray-Ban only has small one. So if I ever have another chance to get them, to buy them, maybe if I go to like some European country where they are available or something, I will get the big one, the bigger one, and maybe I'll start wearing them. So yeah. I think you're right that this is a really good, like a side path, right?
Yeah, and let's see that it goes. I mean, I'm a bit surprised that there was this rumor that now Meta should release a new version with some display, but not made with the Luxottica, which for me will be a big mistake because the Ray-Ban brand, the Luxottica distribution channels, you know, there are stores selling glasses everywhere. I mean, in Italy, you can buy the Ray-Ban Meta, but you can buy them in the glasses store. So you go, you buy sunglasses and there is Ray-Ban Meta, buy them, you know, it's how you can distribute glasses. If it's again Meta just on its website and Amazon with a big frame, not the style, I don't think it will have the same success. That's my opinion, but I think it's been a big mistake.
I agree.
In the partnership.
I think that's why it's so important that you can actually buy the Ray-Ban Meta glasses in the Ray-Ban store, right? That's important that you can do it. And what do you think about those glasses like X-Real or Viture? No, they have those screens in front of you.
I think they're nice. I mean, I tried them. They're not bad. They're small. They're kind of stylish also, in a way. But I don't know how to say that. It's still a gadget for tech people. In the end of the day, it's still you, me, maybe some Japanese people wanted to see movies and the glasses. They're selling quite well in Asia, especially the X-Real Air.
Because they don't have much space, right? So they
yeah. And it's cool. I mean, it's useful, but still, I think the cool thing about Ray-Ban Meta, you buy them in the glasses there where there are the other Ray-Bans, so you perceive them as glasses. You don't perceive them as the tech toy. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes a really huge difference. So as much as I love also the smart glasses, I think really the positioning of the Ray-Ban Meta led to that big success. And
I think it was a very smart move from Meta, really smart. Like, congratulations to them. And I would love to use those glasses because you can like connect Nintendo Switch or Steam Deck to them and like play on a big screen. You know, that's interesting. But also, I have a friend who discovered how to actually do the same thing with Quest. You can buy like a USB. It's like a USB grabber video card. You know, it's like quite cheaply on Chinese. I have it somewhere, but yeah, you can like pay for like, I don't know, like $50, and you connect it to the USB and you connect it to the HDMI, and you can like connect any HDMI device, and then Quest is your screen, because there's this like some kind of app which is called, I don't remember, Camera or something. There's an app that you can sideload from normal Play Store. You can sideload it on the Quest, like a USB camera or something, and then you can basically make Quest a monitor for a display for any HDMI device, your console, you know, Steam Deck, your computer. And there's like almost zero lag because it's like connected to a cable. So that's really interesting concept. And this my friend, he actually lives in Thailand. He's a Polish guy who moved to Thailand. He is a photographer and he has a channel, Thomas Volant. He's called Thomas Volant. And he really discovered, for example, before Meta actually improved, you know, the Netflix app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this Netflix app was shit, and it was like 480p, and other apps were not available, like Prime or something. And he discovered that you can actually like use your Netflix on the Quest by connecting your, I don't know, computer or laptop or iPad, and like use it as a display. So that's really interesting. So if you want to make some interesting things with Netflix, with Quest 3, I recommend. It's called Volans Reality. This channel, maybe Mateusz will give a link or something.
Yeah, I will put the link in the description.
Yeah, it's called Volans Reality. So yeah.
Before we go to let's say a summary, I have one last question, which is more like inside joke of me and Łukasz. So, will you ever see the Lynx R1 being delivered?
Are you a Kickstarter backer or not? Did you back on Kickstarter Lynx R1?
I will have many enemies by saying that. I'm not a Kickstarter baker, but I have a Lynx R1 at home.
What? Oh, this is.
Yeah, but before people get angry with Stan, is because my previous company was partnering with them, or we're evaluating a few projects together. And being the CTO, I needed to try the device, so they sent me one. So that's why I have one. And I also met Stan at the Somnium Connect. I mean, he was very vocal about the difficulties he was having. They need a lot of money. I think that until you start working on the big stuff, the serious stuff, you'd never realize how much money do you need. I mean, we saw this with Lynx, with other things. I saw that also in my previous company. I mean, people, when people think about the metaverse platforms, I mean, social VR, like VR chat, etc., they don't realize the huge cost these things have. Hardware is a big mess, and obviously he's looking for like 15, 30 million. This is what was his shared in his latest update. Hopefully, he said that he fingers crossed in August he should have good news about his money coming from the US. If it happens, I guess if he gets funding, he will deliver all the headsets, because, I mean, I know him a bit. He's really a very smart guy. He's a nice guy. He doesn't look to me. I didn't have any like weird scammer guy when I speak with him.
I also don't believe he's a scammer. It's just he had lots of bad luck, maybe some bad predictions. And he also, I remember that there were articles when he was saying that some investors actually like basically scammed him, like he was scammed. Like, one investor who was supposed to invest in his money learned that that investor behind his back was like talking bad things about him to another investor. So that's like horrible things, actually.
Yeah, but I was sharing with him some difficulties we had about investments, and I mean, I cannot share things publicly about that, but we had bad experiences with public funds, with investors, etc. And so I think he just underestimated the huge task of creating, not only creating, but also distributing a headset. And that's why there are these delays. I think if he gets the money now, he's also more mature, he gained more expertise, he can deliver the headset. For me, what's a pity is that when the headset will be delivered, let's be honest, will not be advanced anymore. I mean, the Quest 3 is much more advanced than the Lynx R1 is. So that's the big pity. You receive a toy, which is great because it's open, it's European, etc. But at the same time, as I said, I can put the Quest 3 and I can put the Lynx R1 on my head, and the Quest 3 is better in everything. So that's the problem. I really hope that he mentioned on Somnium Connect about, he made people understand there is a new version of Lynx also in the works, maybe using the lenses by Hypervision. So, because Limbach has been acquired by Apple, if I'm not wrong. So, I guess probably his plan is getting the money, delivering the current, headset he owes to people, and then work as fast as he can on a new version, because he needs to get on par with the market currently offers. This is my speculation. It's not what he told me, but if I try to, unite the dots, this is what I see. But anyway, if one day we meet in Italy, Lucas, and he did not grab your links, I can make you play with mine for a few hours if you want.
Yeah. At this point, I just want my money back, because this headset is just now so outdated. Maybe some businesses can use it. I don't know. Basically, if they have more orders, for those goggles than they have produced units, I'm happy to give my away to someone else and just, give my money back, because I think the price also increased a lot. So I think that if he were to give me back my money, it would actually be more beneficial for them, because they will have to sell those goggles like a bit below profit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The old price that like $600 or $700, I think they are more expensive now. So I'm happy to take that money and just, if someone is interested in buying them, then do that.
I just to be clear, I'm only joking. I'm still an enthusiast of this piece, and I like toys, as you said, as you called them. To prove that, I will tell you that I recently bought Tilt 5. So yeah, I like toys, and I'm looking forward to get my hands on links still. Okay, guys, so let's go to the summary, the short summary. I had some more questions, but for some you answered already. For some, doesn't make sense to ask anymore. Thank you for this 1 hour of your time, and it was very interesting to meet you, to talk with you about VR. AR, XR in general. Just one last question. Give some space for the future talk. Let's say, let our imagination loose wild. So, if we were hibernated or something like that, and woken up in 2030 or 35, what in your opinion would we see in terms of XR, guys?
Well, first of all, I expect Bradley still talking about the backup, waiting for it, even in 2035. We might be waiting the right time. Well, jokes apart, what I would expect at that time, well, it's more than 10 years. Probably, I expect, let's say, AR not being strange to seeing people having smart glasses and AR glasses in the streets. Maybe still not totally mainstream, but it's not strange. It's okay, common. Everyone maybe has a friend with AR glasses, and let's say I want to be a bit more conservative, so I saw that things take more time than hopeful. So I don't say imagine AR to be already fully mainstream, but I think maybe it's on the path to be. And there are nice glasses that people can wear, and we're starting to get closer to the real metaverse, let's say, not the fluffy one of the 2021. People having more connected, starting having more digital experiences in the world, etc. But still, I don't see the AR glasses substituting smartphones totally in 10 years. That's my opinion. Maybe in 20, hopefully. But there are people who are still dubious about it even in 20, 30 years. So let's say I want to be positive, and I see this ramping up of AR glasses.
I think that things that we thought will change a lot will change less than we thought. And then other things that we thought will not change much will change a lot. This is always what happens. It's so hard to predict. If you ask me in 2016, right, when the VR was just starting, we had Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, what will happen in 8 years, I would have never predicted the rise of Quest, right? That there will be standalone VR. that we will actually move backwards in graphics, right? And in game complexity because of that. Like, it was something that was completely unpredictable. We thought that PC VR games will be better. We will have like more AAA games by now, but we didn't. We got, or like when we got Half-Life Alyx in 2019, right? Or 20 maybe. So 20 or 19?
2020. Yeah,
so 4 years later, where are the games that are better than Alyx, right? There's none. Like, who would have predicted that? I would say there will be at least one game better than Alyx. I mean, Valve promised us 3 VR games. Remember that? They said we have 3 VR games in production. They released Half-Life Alyx, and those 2 games were forgotten completely, right? They don't exist. So that's why I think that I'm trying to be very cautious on predictions, because we really don't know what's going to happen. I know that VR won't die. You know, this dying of VR is just tiring at this point. But I think that it will be still like a niche, more or less.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing about predictions, as I've written in my last blog article, is that I've read on a paper recently that there is a psychologist that made a comparison between predictions and basically flipping a coin.
Mm-hmm.
And usually for most people, the statistical results are the same. So making predictions or saying random things is the same. With the exception of very few people, I mean, that for every field, etc., that he called like super forecasters, he gave this name, which actually are better than the coin. So
probably slightly better, right?
Yeah. So probably whatever I'm saying, it's random words that if a cat wears Welky on my keyboard will make the same.
But I actually like to read your predictions, and I like it that every year you go back and you verify what you got right.
Almost nothing I got right. That's the thing. But when I do one thing, I'm like, I tried it, guys.
I told you so. Yeah.
That's the best.
There's a funny quote. Maybe it was George Bush or someone else. Like, predictions are hard, especially about the future.
I love it.
Right?
Okay, so thank you very much, guys. It was an honor and pleasure. Hope we'll meet sooner than 2030. And
Anton, you have to come to Krakow just to visit, see the sights. It's a beautiful city.
Yeah,
so
fantastic. I will visit you both.
Yes, you do that. Okay.
Okay, guys. So
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mateusz. Thank you.
See you around.
Thank you. It's been fun. Thank you, guys. It's been great to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.